More questions?
Of course, when things went wrong with the alternative certification model last year, one of the big concerns was around fairness and equity. And I remember at the start of the first lockdown, when schools were closed, Mr. Flanagan, you gave evidence to committee, and you stressed how important it was that we audited what the impact of the school closures would be on the attainment gap or the achievement gap. And that equity audit was, of course, promised. It was due at the end of last year. It didn't appear, but it was published today. I realise it was only published a few years ago. It's about 106 pages. I just wonder if the panellists, any of them, have had a chance to look at it and what their reaction to it is.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yeah, actually, the last time I appeared in front of the panel, we, I think, made the call then for an equity audit to be carried out. I think the thrust of what's being produced today is welcome. Although one of the points we did make to the writers of the report in the course of their gathering of evidence was that this wasn't really meant to be a long-term research project, but actually meant to try and address that equity or inequity in the system in a fairly timely fashion. So I think there's a bit of a challenge around how much have we done in a year to actually address some of those challenges. And certainly one of the concerns that we would continue to have around accreditation this year is that the most disadvantaged students, although they actually benefit from internal assessment as opposed to external exams, are also the ones who are most likely to have had their learning disrupted, either through repeated lockdown, repeated areas of isolation, or because their communities have had higher infection levels. So there is, I think, still an equity challenge, not necessarily in the process, but in terms of ensuring that the access to learning has been equitable across the year. The big difference between the alternative assessment model this year and the use of professional judgment last year on estimates is that last year that had to be added on to a system where pupils were no longer in school. So you're working on the evidence that had been produced in the normal course of the year. Whereas this year, the alternative assessment model, teachers are aware that this, the classroom evidence is going to be the basis for the assessments. More particularly, pupils are aware that they're producing work not just for the teacher to mark, but this is going to count towards their assessment. So hopefully that will mean that there's a greater engagement from the pupil cohort, so that they are actually able to perform at their best. Seamus touched on it there. We actually think classroom or school-produced evidence is a better system overall, and you'll have seen this in the ICA report. The use of high-stakes testing is already loaded against young people from disadvantaged backgrounds for a whole range of reasons. So hopefully, longer term, there will be a better assessment model used around crediting young people's learning in schools.